A single rotation, a few seconds of motion, enough electricity to power a home for 2 days. That is the promise of the modern wind turbine. A machine so large it defies comprehension, yet so precisely engineered that its movements are measured in millimeters. In the Netherlands, where the land has always struggled against the sea, these machines now rise by the thousands. They stand along coastlines, march across farmlands, and float in the North Sea, their blades carving the air with a slow, deliberate rhythm. Together, they supply nearly 1/5 of the nation's electricity, and each one begins its life not in the sky, but deep underground. The story of wind power is older than most imagine. Centuries ago, the Dutch perfected the windmill, using simple wooden blades to grind grain and pump water away from land that wanted to be sea. Those machines worked on a principle that remains unchanged: intercept the wind, capture its motion, put that motion to work. But the true transformation came in 1887, when a Scottish professor named James Blythe connected a wind-driven rotor to a generator. In that moment, wind ceased to be a force that moved things and became a force that lit them. Across the Atlantic, an American inventor named Charles Brush took the idea further, building a massive horizontal axis machine that produced 12 kilowatts, enough to power a handful of lights. From those 12 kilowatts, the modern turbine has grown more than 1,300 times in power. Today's machines reach 16 megawatts. Their blades sweep areas larger than several football fields. And before any of that becomes visible, before a single blade turns, a battle is fought beneath the ground. The foundation begins with a hole. Engineers excavate 2 to 4 meters deep, sometimes wider than 20 meters across. Every layer of soil is tested: density, moisture, load-bearing capacity. If the ground shifts, the tower above will tilt, and a machine taller than the Great Pyramid will slowly lean toward failure. Once the site is prepared, workers install hundreds of tons of steel reinforcement, weaving a dense network of bars into a cage that will anchor the entire structure. At the center sits a massive ring of anchor bolts, machined to tolerances so tight that the connection between tower and foundation becomes nearly absolute. Then comes the concrete. Hundreds of cubic meters cored continuously, sometimes for hours, to ensure there are no weak points, no seams where cracks could form. Temperature is monitored, setting rate is controlled. When it hardens, the foundation weighs more than 1,000 tons, a block of stone and steel designed to resist forces that would tear a lesser structure apart. Above ground, the tower rises in sections. A single piece cannot be transported. The roads are not wide enough, the bridges not strong enough. So the tower is divided into cylindrical steel segments, each weighing between 230 and 270 tons. To move these across the Dutch countryside, engineers deploy heavy haul vehicles with dozens of independently controlled axles. Each wheel can lift, lower, and steer independently, distributing weight so evenly that a column of steel heavier than a fully loaded Boeing 747 can navigate curves that seem impossibly tight. At the construction site, cranes take over. The first section lifts into the air, swinging slowly as wind pushes against it. Workers below watch with the focus of surgeons, because this steel cylinder must descend onto the flange below with a tolerance measured in millimeters. A single gust could misalign it by centimeters, turning hours of work into a dangerous reset. When the flanges engage, the crew inside the tower moves fast. Hundreds of high-strength bolts tightened, locked, torqued to specification. Then the next section rises, then the next, until the tower stands complete, a steel spine reaching toward the sky. At its top sits the Nacelle, a steel housing the size of a small house, weighing hundreds of tons. Inside are the components that transform slow rotation into usable electricity: the main shaft, the gearbox, the generator. Lifting this asymmetrical mass into the air presents a different kind of challenge. The tower is symmetrical, it wants to stay straight. The Nacelle is not. Its center of gravity sits off-center, and when the crane lifts it, the entire assembly swings like a pendulum. It must descend onto the yaw bearing, the ring that will allow it to rotate 360 degrees, tracking the wind with the same millimeter precision as the tower sections. Hundreds of bolts must pass through matching holes before hydraulic tensioners lock everything in place. Inside the Nacelle, the engineering becomes visible. The blades turn slowly, 10 to 20 revolutions per minute, a speed that would produce nothing usable if connected directly to a generator. So, the main shaft feeds into a planetary gearbox, a masterpiece of mechanical multiplication. Gears within gears, each precisely cut, intermesh to increase rotational speed from 15 revolutions per minute to 1500. This enormous kinetic energy then passes into the generator, where magnetic fields and copper windings perform the final conversion, motion into electricity. But the Nacelle, for all its complexity, remains incomplete without the blades. Each blade stretches between 70 and more than 100 meters, longer than the wingspan of a commercial airliner. Yet they weigh only tens of tons, their aerodynamic shells designed to be both light and extraordinarily sensitive to wind. Installing them is one of the most delicate operations in industrial construction. There are two methods. The first is individual installation. A crane lifts each blade to height, where workers must align its connection points with the rotating hub, while the blade acts like a sail, catching every gust, twisting and turning in the hands of the wind. The second method is more complex and more dangerous, the full rotor assembly, sometimes called the bunny ear method. All three blades are attached to the hub on the ground, forming a structure more than 150 meters across. Then, the crane lifts the entire assembly into the air. At that moment, the rotor becomes a giant sail. A breath of wind can send it spinning, turning a controlled lift into a disaster. So these operations happen only in near calm conditions, when the wind drops almost to zero. The crane lifts slowly, carefully, while workers below watch the bolt holes that must align with those on the main shaft. A few millimeters, that is the margin. When the final bolt tightens, the turbine becomes whole. But it does not spin yet. Before its first rotation, the machine undergoes testing. Engineers inside the nacelle check every component: the main shaft, the gearbox, the braking system, the generator. Sensors activate, control software runs diagnostics. Then the turbine is allowed to turn at low speed, while monitors track vibration, temperature, noise, structural stability. If any parameter exceeds its limit, the system stops. When everything passes, the final step is grid connection. The first flow of electricity synchronizes with the national power system, frequency matched, voltage aligned. A machine that was hours before a collection of steel and copper becomes part of the energy infrastructure. From this moment, every rotation powers thousands of homes. Yet the wind is not always cooperative. When storms arrive, when anemometers atop the tower register dangerous speeds, the turbine enters survival mode. Pitch bearings at the root of each blade rotate them 90 degrees, feathering so that the blades cut through the air rather than resisting it. Hydraulic disc brakes clamp the main shaft. The machine that was generating power becomes a silent steel tower, waiting for the storm to pass. Today, the Netherlands stands as proof of what wind power can achieve. A nation where more than a third of the land lies below sea level, a country that has spent centuries fighting water, now harnesses the air above it. Wind supplies nearly 20% of Dutch electricity, and the number is rising. Globally, the race has accelerated. China leads with more than 560 gigawatts of capacity, nearly half the world's total. The United States follows with over 150 gigawatts. Germany, Denmark, the United Kingdom, all have transformed their energy systems. Denmark now draws nearly 60% of its electricity from wind, a share unimaginable a generation ago. Even emerging economies like India and Brazil are building at scale, turning wind into an engine of economic growth. But there is a cost that the industry has not yet solved. A wind turbine operates for 20 to 25 years. When it reaches the end of its life, 85% of its materials, steel from the tower, copper from the generator, can be melted down and reused. The blades are different. They're manufactured from epoxy resin and fiberglass, materials chosen for strength and durability. Those same properties make them nearly impossible to recycle. Grinding them requires enormous energy. Incinerating them releases toxic fumes. So, thousands of blades after their service life ends are cut into sections and buried. Wind turbine graveyards exist across the world, landfills where the clean energy industry has left its waste. Engineers are searching for solutions, new resins that can be broken down chemically, thermal processes that recover fiberglass, designs that prioritize recyclability. The answers are coming, but they have not arrived yet. From the foundations driven deep into the seabed of the North Sea, to the gearboxes suspended 100 meters in the air, to the blades sweeping across coastal skies, today's wind turbines represent something remarkable. They are the product of centuries of refinement, decades of engineering, and a willingness to build at a scale that strains the limits of what is possible. The Dutch, who have always understood that survival requires working with nature rather than against it, have become leaders in this transformation. Their windmills once drained swamps and ground grain. Their turbines now light cities. The challenges remain: blade waste, intermittent power, the environmental cost of manufacturing at scale. But these are problems of maturity, not failure. Every energy source carries costs. The task is to reduce them until the balance tips decisively towards sustainability. For now, across the Netherlands, the giants turn. Each rotation lasts a few seconds. Each rotation powers a home for 2 days. And in that simple arithmetic lies the promise of a world where the wind, free, endless, and indifferent to borders, does the work that coal and oil have done for generations. The machines are not perfect, but they are working, and they are watching, waiting for the next gust that will become in a fraction of a second the light in someone's home.